What is up? This is the Yahoo NFL live show on Osmo. I'm Pete McCarthy with Matt Savoca. See, look, we talked about your name. I was like, I got the whole thing squared away. We're going to do Mike Soroka, and then all of a sudden I'm dropping mixed consonants here. To a rollicking start, Matt.
You know what? If you need to do it again, we can. But I think it was good enough. We can get people through. I think they figured it out. Hey, good wonderful enough to meet you. Very excited to chop it up. We got a great slate. Do we though? There's been a little bit of talk about the play of one Patrick Mahomes, and dare I say, it's been a little bit overblown. Some of that talk this week.
Oh, you think so? Well, I think the projections might bear that out, but we'll get it into it. We'll shake it all out. Look, we got a Giants team that's 2-5 that isn't very good, and some also ran Kansas City Chiefs team that scored 3 points last week. They might never score a touchdown again, as I'm sure you would agree with here as we're talking about. But the defenses aren't very good in this game. Maybe there'll be some entertainment in the background of the Manning cast. That's what we're hoping for tonight, right?
Hey, I gotta say, I'm a huge fan of it.
It's been great.
This is great with all it. Not to say that the Monday Night Football typical broadcast has been anything but sparkly. I can't even keep a straight face. No, it's been awful the last few years. And so having an alternative just in that regard has been great. But yeah, getting into this game here, I think one team has a very, very good chance at getting a get-right situation, while the other I have much fewer hopes for.
Yes, I'll agree with you on that. All right, it's the McCarthy Savoca cast here as we get you ready for this DFS slate on Yahoo. Give us a like, subscribe so you keep up with all of our shows, our DFS offers, and much, much more. And once you do subscribe, hit that notification button, get alerts when our shows go live. We're with you every Monday at 3 o'clock Eastern time, breaking this down for Yahoo. Be sure to also check out today's free premium tools and data at Awesemo, which are Monday Night Football player rankings, NHL ownership projections, as well as NBA player projections. And get involved in the chat as well. You got some questions, throw them out there. We'll mix them into the show as we go along. You think I'm wrong about something, Matt's wrong about something, whatever it might be, you can talk smack to us there. Basics for this game. The Kansas City Chiefs walk in, as much as all the talk is negative, they're still a 10.5-point favorite going into this game against the Giants. Over under, pretty high, over 52.5 points. So you're looking at Chiefs 31.5, Giants 21. Probably won't be the actual score. Tough to get those half points. Real basic weather, 41 degrees at kickoff. Do we consider that cold?
Maybe some parts of the country, but certainly not for a football game. I think it'll be good football weather in Kansas City tonight.
I think it's cold. I moved to North Carolina. 41 degrees is now cold to me. I was like, man, that's a cold game. All right, so we got a little weather there. Home field advantages we know at Arrowhead for Kansas City. Injuries, Chiefs right tackle Mike Remmer's questionable. Giants are banged up. Saquon Barkley out. Kenny Golladay out. Kadarius Toney and Sterling Shepard, the receivers, are officially questionable, but both are expected to play. And that'll be big news before lock. But if we walk in right now expecting those two to go, I think those are going to be some of the big decisions as you're trying to put together your 5-player lineups tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And you got to say that the probability of the New York Giants hitting anything close to a ceiling performance as a team, and therefore getting some ceiling performances out of the players, really hinges on the availability of Kadarius Toney and Sterling Shepard. I do not think that a team trotting out John Ross and whatever else they have behind those two, Darius Slayton, I guess he's been okay in spots, but truly they need some of these weapons, especially with very little firepower from the backfield. Booker has been okay, but Toney has been by far the most electric player on this team. We saw him just run 5 routes in the game against the Rams where he was injured, and he had already been targeted 3 times, catching 3 passes. This is a player who's already gotten a 189 receiving yard game on his resume. So just the ability for the Giants to stay close really hinges on Shepard and Toney to me.
Yeah, Toney had that big breakout game against the Dallas Cowboys. He was everywhere, was a huge part of the game plan going into that game against the Rams, as the Giants talked about, and they got knocked out in the first quarter, even after having the targets that you mentioned. So he's expected to be a key piece for them. Giants getting healthier. Obviously, They still don't have Saquon Barkley, and that's that security blanket that's supposed to be there for the Giants, but has not been there. More big picture, we're talking about this Giants offense a little bit. This Chiefs defense, and look, it's legitimately bad. You look at, I always like looking at Football Outsiders, DVOA. The Chiefs are the 31st ranked defense in the NFL there, and 31st against the pass. They didn't look any better last week against Tennessee. As much as maybe we could throw out the offensive results in that game for Kansas City, defensively, they just give up points week after week after week. And now it's a matter of, can the Giants, are they a team that can actually take advantage of that a little bit?
Yeah, that's really it. To the point you're making here, there is no doubt about it. Any metric you look at, advanced or standard, is going to show the Chiefs as one of the worst teams in the league. They're 29th in yards per carry allowed in the league. They're also 31st in PFF's team defensive grade, and they're 32nd in expected points added by the other team per play. So just any regards, the Kansas City defense is a liability in terms of their ability to certainly make it to another AFC championship game or another Super Bowl. But for a fantasy standpoint, it does increase the shootout potential of any game they're in, even the New York Giants, who come and certainly beat up. But, we've seen them ranked closer to league average. Right now, they're hovering around 23, 24 in expected points added per play as a team. That's not terrible. Their minus 41 point differential is, but Kansas City, surprisingly, at a minus 15 point differential. That has a lot to do with that defense just not being able to hold anybody. So if there is a defense that can help Daniel Jones and company get right themselves, it's a defense like Kansas City. And if Kansas City holds up their end of the bargain, if you will, and the Giants do score points, then we are going to have fireworks from Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, and yes, one Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, this is what I think is really interesting about this game. Look, the Chiefs are going to score some points. As much as people are panicking about the Chiefs overall, offensively, they've been very good this year. They had one bad game against Tennessee. I'm willing to throw it out the window. The offensive line has some issues for Kansas City, but the Giants don't exactly have a dynamic pass rush. So on that side of the ball, look, we're expecting the Chiefs to score points. The other side of the ball is where it's interesting. And I guess, again, big picture, and then we'll start going player by player and position by position here. But if I'm the Giants, what's my strategy going into this game? And Steven hits on it in the chat. Hey, you can make the case that Devontae Booker can run well. The Giants will feed him to keep the Kansas City offense off the field, right? Like, this is the thought process that Steven has, and I'm sure. But Devontae Booker's not really that kind of running back. To me, if I'm the Giants, and I'll just ask you a football question, what's your strategy tonight? Are you pounding Devontae Booker, trying to keep the ball out of Kansas City's hands, or just saying, hey, we got Tony back, we got Shepard back, let's have a little track meet, let's let Daniel Jones throw the ball and see if we can keep up? Because I tend to lean towards that second one. I think even if I'm the Giants, I'm trying to put up points to beat Kansas City, not play keep away.
Well, I think you have to answer your question with another clarifying question. I hate to do it, because what do I think the Giants do and what do I think the Giants should do are two different answers for me. To answer the second one first, what do I think they should do? Of course they should come out passing. They're 11-point underdogs in a 52-point total game. They need variability. They need volatility. They need things to bounce right for them. They need to be doing fake punts, going forward on fourth downs. This is just standard fare for what you're doing when you're a touchdown or more underdog in the NFL. Period. End of story. Then add in the personnel decisions that Tony and Shepard are likely back in, that the Chiefs on the other side are scoring most likely. Then you absolutely need to have a pass first game plan. What do I think the Giants are going to do? They're going to look at the Cleveland Browns in week 1, and they're going to say, well, Chubb and Hunt were able to run it down their throats, and that limited Patrick Mahomes, and it took an otherworldly comeback for the Chiefs to get down in that game. And then our defense will hold it down. The one with the 10th worst defensive grade by PFF in coverage, I should say. Yeah, that's going to totally work against Patrick Mahomes for 4 quarters. Give me a break. It's one way to play it, but I think that is the completely wrong way to approach the Kansas City Chiefs, even if they are 29th in yards per carry allowed.
Yeah, well, look, that's going to play into how we're putting together our lineups, what we think the Giants are going to do in this game, even if it's not necessarily what we think they should do in this game, as you specified there. Look, you want to help playing with Yahoo and getting the best projections. Look, we're going to talk about it. We're going to break it down. But be sure to also check out an Awesemo Plus NFL Express Weekly Pass. It's just $3.95. It's the best way to introduce yourself to Osmo Plus NFL. You get access to our NFL DFS player and ownership rankings, our expert Slack chat, and everything we have to offer for showdown and single game contests. Also new this year to the package is our season-long fantasy tool, trade value tool, and fantasy streaming helper. And you also get projected ownership and optimal lineup probabilities for tiers contests on DraftKings. It's the most expansive Express weekly package ever. So head on over to the Osmo Plus join page and pick your pass up for just $3.95. Cup of coffee. Stop guessing, start winning. Join Osmo Plus today. All right, so let's hit the quarterbacks. Patrick Mahomes, play him. Done. We're on to the next one. Now, and really the only question with Mahomes is, look, he's $41. He hasn't played poorly. He's averaging 299 yards per game. He's got his 18 touchdowns. Has thrown 9 interceptions, been sacked a bunch. We'll get into the Giants defense and maybe if it's playable tonight. But $41, I mean, do you even blink with Patrick Mahomes?
No, not really. And I'm not avoiding him in tournaments. Yes, because he's going to be popular. People are finding ways to get that $41 salary into their lineups this Monday night. That's the bottom line. One of the things we need to talk about is the fact that 538 actually had an article, I think it was last year, about how Patrick Mahomes doesn't have bad games. The only thing that has occurred different from last 2 seasons to this year is that Patrick Mahomes has put up what we would start to consider a bad game. It happens. It happens to every quarterback, but the ceiling is just as high here. We're not moving away from him in any sort of format. We don't have a leverage score specifically for Yahoo, but on both FanDuel and DraftKings, especially on FanDuel, where the strategy is very similar because there's no 1.5x for that superstar position, the leverage scores are positive. We want to have over the field on Patrick Mahomes. I think this is basically irresponsible media narratives that have occurred all over the place this week because there hasn't been so much else to talk about. Is Patrick Mahomes in trouble? Is Patrick Mahomes degrading in talent? I think it is complete hogwash. If you look at the underlying metrics, first of all, the attempts have been massive because their defense is so bad. He's second in the NFL in attempts, 4th in deep attempts, 6th in red zone attempts, but his efficiency metrics are fine. 6th in red zone completion percentage. I guess he's 13th in deep ball completion percentage. Again, with that high volume, Player Profiler has a true completion percentage. He's top 10 in the NFL. So yes, he's not number 1 in every single statistic like we know he is capable of being. But the ceiling in this one game slate is so incredibly high. His weaponry is getting healthier, and I have no faith in the Giants defense holding them down. I said in my write-up for this game that this is a get-right spot for this offense. I think they're scoring 35-plus points today. I have it down for 38.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with that. And one thing that jumped out at me, we hear about Daniel Jones, how much he has success running the football. Patrick Mahomes is 219 rushing yards. Daniel Jones, 229. Like, they're pretty much even. Even if you don't think Patrick Mahomes is going to go out and throw for 400 yards, he can still put up points with his legs. He scored 1 touchdown this year. You get a rushing touchdown out of the quarterback, you feel pretty good throwing him in that superstar spot. Daniel Jones is a little more interesting because when I was playing around, it was kind of, okay, you could play Daniel Jones at $28 or you can get to Tyreek Hill at $31. And that felt like the either or decision here. Daniel Jones only thrown for 5 touchdowns this year. We know he can run a little bit. He does have more of a complement of weapons than he's had in weeks. What do we make of Daniel Jones tonight against the Swiss cheese defense?
Yeah, so there are some other factors that make Daniel Jones the player Daniel Jones the play more interesting than Daniel Jones the player to me. He's been okay. It was great to see in his range of outcomes in week 4 a 402-yard passing performance, but then we see him come just crashing back to earth with a 98-yard passing game against Dallas. He gets hurt there, so you think he'd be better on the way back in. 242 passing yards and then a really abysmal 203 even in a victory. So we know that the range of outcomes is really high for Jones. That means we need rushing upside for him to really hit his ceiling, and at least we're getting it there. He's 6th among quarterbacks in carries per game and 12th in red zone carries per game. So they are still utilizing him a pretty heavy amount, as you mentioned. From a strategy standpoint, I do think it gets really interesting when you're trying to fit in multiple big time players, specifically big time Chiefs players, and you need to have a quarterback, but you need a salary saving option. Then Daniel Jones, even with the premier pass catchers from the Chiefs, becomes a really interesting play to me. So I'll probably be with the field, if not a little above, on Jones as well.
And I always think it's a good strategy on Yahoo to be above the field on both quarterbacks. It's hard for the receivers to get up there. 10 receptions isn't necessarily putting you in that optimal lineup with the way the scoring is set up. You just see a lot of quarterbacks, a lot of running backs as well. But we'll get into the receivers who we might want to pair with these quarterbacks coming up. Right now, we're telling you, hey, we've partnered with Yahoo Fantasy this NFL season. We got some great offers for you, including an exclusive limited time offer, which gets you 1 free month of Osmo Plus Platinum. Now, to qualify, you need to be new to Yahoo, sign up for an account via the link below, deposit, and play. Bada bing, bada boom. Yahoo will send us your name after you play in your first paid contest and reach out via email with your coupon. And if you need immediate access because you want to play tonight, email support@osmo.com. We'll get you all set up. You can also claim a free $10 below, which can be used to enter any Yahoo contest, including tonight's $100,000 Monday Night Football Baller. I signed up for that weeks ago. Is the Giants-Washington game? Still playing. I got like $70 in there. So we're rolling with it. Hey, get the $10 you hit, you're feeling pretty good. So make sure to use our DFS tools and projections designed specifically for Yahoo to give yourself the best shot at winning big. So we know, look, a lot of people will be running to Patrick Mahomes in that superstar spot. You're going to want to pair him with some kind of pass catcher. Tyreek Hill, 31. Travis Kelce, $30. Probably going to have to pick one of the two. And then it gets interesting as we go below that. But let's do Hill Kelce first. Kelce makes me a little nervous. He has not had as many targets as Tyreek Hill. Doesn't have the big play threat, obviously, that Tyreek Hill does. If you're going to play Kelce, I think you need probably multiple touchdowns to really get him up there with the big play ability that Tyreek Hill has as you kind of even these two out.
Yeah, I think that is the correct way to see the situation. Okay, so we need to break this down. One of the reasons that Travis Kelce often is valuable in all forms of fantasy football is because compared to the rest of the tight end position, his usage is just completely elite, not to mention the production he can have within the offense that he's within. The reason in a one game format, a player like Kelce can be less exciting is that positional advantage is taken away when you're talking about comparing him to the rest of the field, especially when the rest of the field has ceiling scores like his teammate, Tyreek Hill, or like Kadarius Toney on the other side. One thing I will mention, though, is that Kelce had a string of games where he absolutely was viable in any format, where, especially at the end of 2020, he had 8 receptions in 5 straight games at one point, including 3 at 98 yards or over, and touchdowns in every single one of those games. So in that case, you're fine playing him. I did say in my article today that he is someone I'm saving mostly for cash, because I feel like the most likely outcome for Kelce is he ends up in that 1.5x to 2.5x value, which is fine, but ultimately, we're going to need something bigger for a tournament winning score. Right now, I'm looking at the top superstar rank. It almost has Hill, at almost double the probability of being the top superstar than Travis Kelce.
Yeah, and there's more big play potential there. And, even look at the touchdowns this year. Tyreek Hill's got 5, Travis Kelce 4. So, we'll see. Maybe they put Kelce in the background. It gets one of those cheap rushing touchdowns that we saw a couple times last year, backfield, not background. But yeah, I think it gets interesting too when you go a little deeper with the Chiefs because there are so many options. You have a big name like Josh Gordon that's sitting there, really hasn't gotten involved in the offense yet. McCole Hardman gets a number of targets, 30 receptions, 289 yards this year. Byron Pringle is a factor. Demarcus Robinson gets the most snaps of everyone except Tyreek Hill as far as the wide receivers go, but Patrick Mahomes just doesn't really throw to him. So this will be one of those decisions that you make. Where do you want to go? The price isn't a big factor at Hardman 13, Pringle 12, and everybody else minimum priced.
Yeah, Hardman really intrigues me, especially on a one-game slate at 13. You could also say that maybe just grabbing 2 of them. I would say probably if I'm building with an optimizer, a maximum of 2 from this group. But I don't mind a situation, especially in a large field tournament, where I'm doubling up with Hardman and a player like Demarcus Robinson that's only 23 in salary, that probably allows me to go up to the 41 of Mahomes. And we have had games this season where the non-Hill, non-Kelce players in this offense have hit. So I'm certainly not taking any of them out of my player pool this week. In fact, I like them probably better than all of the non-Kadarius Toney Giants, maybe with the exception of Devontae Booker, simply because the touch total is going to be so high.
Mm-hmm. And so let's get to the Giants receivers. Kadarius Toney, when he's been on the field, he's been terrific. Again, expected to play. Same thing with Sterling Shepard. Shepard, not the big play threat of Toney, but he gets a number of targets. His ability to make a lot of receptions doesn't help you as much here on Yahoo. And then there's just a lot of different guys in the mix, right? Darius Slayton is certainly capable of a big play, probably a big drop as well. Evan Ingram, kind of say the same thing about the tight end there for the Giants, who's been inconsistent in his time. Maybe we don't have to worry too much about the Dante Pettis', John Ross's, Colin Johnsons that have been small factors in recent weeks, but because of the massive injuries. So let's start at the top. Kadarius Toney, 18, Shepard, 17, Slayton, 17. I'm guessing that's exactly the way that you would rank how you like those three.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not going away from the field consensus on that part. And Toney, especially in a one-game slate where I'm trying to win a tournament, he's that type of player that I'm going to look for because he can truly break open games. And that's not hard to say because he's literally done it before. 13 targets, 10 catches, 189 receiving yards on a really healthy 137 air yards in his last fully healthy game. And honestly, he wasn't fully healthy. He had that ankle taped up pretty strongly in that game against Dallas, still cutting all over the place. Really excited to see him back and hoping that he can stay at least relatively healthy for the remainder of the season. And then with Sterling Shepard, we've seen some positive games for him already this season. Mm-hmm. Before seeing Toney break out, I would have said Shepard is really the only player on this team that can score 20 plus fantasy points here. We've seen him hit almost that number, 9 receptions for 94 yards in week 2, 10 receptions for 76 yards in week 6 here. But again, we're going to need a type of performance from one of these players that we have not seen, or from Shepard, that we have not seen at all this season. Yes, could it happen against the Kansas City Chiefs that have been a sieve on defense? Sure. But I see them in line with the salary-weighted top stack percentage, which only had Shepard as a 4.2% probability of being in that top stack.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like Cedric Wilson last night with Dallas, right? If you're going to see a Giants receiver streaking down the field on a big play, it's going to be Kadarius Toney. So, you get that big play, you get the big points, and that's kind of what we're looking to find here. Of course, Odds Shopper. It's changing the way you approach sports betting. So shopping for the best line available, it's important. It's a common sense thing. Odds Shopper allows you to find your best bet in 30 seconds or less. It's got a powerful filtering mechanism, and Odds Shopper quickly delivers bets that you want to make right to your fingertips. So click the link in the description of this video to head on over to Odds Shopper and check out its innovative e-commerce inspired platform right now. No reason not to at least give it a look. So check it out. Start making better bets today. The running game, we haven't gotten into it much. We expect Devontae Booker, he's going to get a lot of volume, a lot of touches, but he's not very good. He's not a big play running back. He's kind of, 3 yards in a cloud of dust. That's what you're looking at. He has scored a couple of touchdowns, though he's vultured last week by Eli Penny, who has really been a factor in the last couple of weeks, at least in terms of stealing a number of carries. What do we make of this Giants backfield? It's only $15 for Booker. And you're looking at a guy, what, 15, 20 touches tonight expected?
Yep, that's what it is. It's low salary touches. That's all. And that can be exciting, especially when you're talking about a cash game. But again, we've said it before on this broadcast that getting to a ceiling score probably involves several touchdowns for a player like Booker. You hit the nail on the head. 3.1 true yards per carry is running back 69 on the season. His 3.8 yards per touch is running back 57. In Player Profiler's breakaway run rate, which is their ability to break off 10-yard runs or more, his 2% is running back 46. So the only thing really exciting about Booker is the touch totals. And, he's gotten it the last few weeks. 14 carries and 3 targets, 20 total routes run in week 7, 12 carries, 4 targets in week 6 with 32 routes run against the Rams and a negative game script. look, it can happen, but the most likely outcome is somewhere around 10 to maybe 12 fantasy points, and that's not winning you a tournament. The salary is fine. The touches are enough that he could theoretically score a lot, but the probability is incredibly low.
How about Eli Penny? There are games where maybe it's worth it to go $10. You hope you vulture a touchdown and you get him, in the bottom end of your lineup. It doesn't feel like that kind of game when the over-under is sitting there at 50 and you're trying to get lucky with that. Would you throw any darts at Penny?
Hey, look, he had 9 carries last week. So you could say, okay, they were up by a lot. PJ Walker was in the game for Carolina. There were some wonky things about the game flow that indicated why Elijah Penny's 9 carries might be an anomaly. And that's sort of where I land. The most he had in any game this season prior to last week was 3 carries. That's kind of where I have him at. It's like 3 to 4, maybe 6 or 7 total opportunities.
So this is where I think you can get different. It's the Chiefs running game. Everyone's going to be on Mahomes. Everyone's pairing him with a receiver, right? What if Darrel Williams goes in there and sneaks a couple of touchdowns? A guy that can be a factor in the passing game as well. It's really been a one running back crew since Clyde Edwards-Helaire went down. Jerick McKinnon hasn't been much of a factor here. You're only looking at $20 for Darrel Williams. I think this is a guy that, especially if you like the Chiefs to roll in this game, he's going to have a number of touches and is maybe more of a likely threat than, say, Booker to find pay dirt in this game.
Yeah, and people are going to look at last week's game line for Darrel Williams and be really scared off, and we have to contextualize that. First of all, 5 carries and then 4 targets, 9 total opportunities for the Chiefs starting running back. You got to have some pause with that. What the heck happened? And if you watch the game, you certainly know that game got out of hand quickly to the point where the Chiefs had no choice but to abandon plays to the running back. Essentially, they were going deep as much as possible. Again, it didn't work out for them, but you understand that Darrel Williams was taken away from the game plan at that point. So you look to the week before against Washington as a much better indicator of what the workload could be tonight. And that looks much better. 21 carries, including 6 in the red zone, 4 targets. He's actually seen 4 or more targets in 3 straight weeks, run at least 21 routes in all of those games as well. I mean, this is a great player with high projected volume tied to a great offense on a team that should win at home. No way you're not above the field on Darrel Williams.
Jerick McKinnon, worth diving into at 13?
I think that's a large field tournament play for me. Man, this is a player I loved when it was earlier in his career. I just think the athleticism is zapped at this point. I'm just looking at his game logs right now. 4 targets last week. So I guess even in a super from their starting running back, he still only got 4 total opportunities. His season high in opportunities is 7. So if
you're playing him, you're hurting. You're hoping something befalls Mr. Williams. I mean, that's kind of the play if you're going Jerick McKinnon, more likely than not. But, that's sometimes a play, as you mentioned, a very big tournament and see what you can get. Defense, these defenses are cheap, which you understand, but the Chiefs coming in at $12, the Giants at 10. I almost think the Giants are interesting being that low, considering how often Mahomes has been sacked. He's thrown a number of interceptions. You're not getting a points, you're not making any money on that or any points on keeping the Chiefs at bay. But I think the idea is you get enough turnovers, you're able to sack Mahomes enough and use those savings. And you hope that, none of the other $10 receivers, let's say on the Chiefs, break out in this game. Either of these playable to you?
Yeah, that one I'm going to disagree with you on. I think I'm staying away almost entirely from the Giants defense, but I will have a little bit of the Chiefs because they are 11-point home favorites. And really it comes down to that is just very simple DFS strategy. I'll probably correlate that play with a Darrel Williams play, something like that. But I'm also not afraid on a 1-game slate to play something like Mahomes and the Chiefs defense. I think it's very possible to say that Daniel Jones is the one turning the ball over multiple times. I guess we're getting a little swayed because of his bad games against the Bills and Titans recently, but before that, Mahomes essentially just doesn't turn the ball over. I still think I'm aligning closer to that basis than the current the current streak of games.
Yeah, no, I crunched and I had the Giants in there twice. I was like, geez, so I immediately throw these out, or is there something to it? So, maybe that's how I'll be different than you tonight. But, it's kind of what you're looking at, trying to find a way on a night where there is a superstar just so far above the fray. I mean, Awesemo's top stacks tool, you can check that out for the full rankings, but Patrick Mahomes, 55% chance of being the optimal superstar tonight. It's kind of hard to get away from it when the number is that high, especially at the quarterback position. So, where do you get cute? Where is there a spot to differentiate yourself a little bit as you look at this game and have some final thoughts here?
Yeah, I think I mentioned it once before, but I'm looking at those auxiliary options from the Chiefs. I certainly really like Darrel Williams. I talked about that, and I'm going to be above the field on him. But I also want to say that these pairings of, say, Demarcus Robinson, Byron Pringle, Cole Hardman, Demarcus Robinson, and yes, you can add in a third pass catcher, one of those premier options, either Kelce or Hill, should the salary fit. That is really how I'm getting cute, as well as the Chiefs defense.
And Mark writes in the chat, hey, the Giants defense could potentially end up with negative DFS points. Yeah, no, that's realistic. So you gotta shoot your shot sometimes and see how it all happens. It's that 10% outcomes that sometimes you're trying to hit here. But yeah, no, we appreciate everybody joining us, get involved in the chat. We'll be back every Monday to talk about the Monday Night Football game. Do it from the Yahoo point of view, right here in the Osmo DFS channel, 3 Eastern every Monday. Still to come on the Osmo DFS channel. It's a big night. We got the NBA Deeper Dive starting up at 5 Eastern. And then Matt's coming back, and we'll have the NFL Showdown live before lock with our good friend Eric Lindquist. That'll be coming up at 7:15 Eastern. That's exciting. Manning
good
cast
stuff, man. Yeah, the Manning cast. That's what we're living for. And hopefully the Giants showing up so we get a good game. I really do think that there's some solid shootout potential here. Should be fun tonight.
Let's get some points. The McCarthy Savoca cast is out.